The silent threat. The warning came on an ordinary Tuesday. Commander Jackson Reed was reviewing tactical simulations when the alert flashed across his console. Something massive had just breached the outer defense grid at the edge of the solar system. Not one ship, but hundreds. "Sir, we're detecting multiple unknown vessels approaching from the Kuiper Belt," Lieutenant Marcus Ortiz reported, his voice remarkably steady despite the tension visible in his shoulders. Reed straightened, feeling the familiar weight of command settle onto him. At 45, he'd spent most of his life in the Terran Defense Force, preparing for a moment he'd secretly hoped would never come. First contact with an advanced alien civilization. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a swarm of angular vessels cutting through space with predatory grace. They were unlike anything in Earth's archives, sleek obsidian structures that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. The lead ship dwarfed Earth's largest vessel by at least 5 times. "Have they responded to hails?" Reed asked. "No, sir. We've tried all frequencies, including the first contact protocols." Reed's terminal chimed. Admiral Toshiro Yamamoto's stern face appeared on screen. "Commander Reed, I'm activating Protocol Omega. All TDF vessels are to mobilize immediately. We're looking at a potential Class 1 threat scenario." Reed felt his blood run cold. Class 1 meant potential extinction-level event, the scenario they'd trained for but never truly believed would happen. "Understood, Admiral. The Vigilant is ready." The Vigilant wasn't the newest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was reliable, a battle-tested cruiser that had served during the Mars Rebellion. It would have to be enough. As Reed prepared his crew, the alien armada continued its silent advance. They bypassed Neptune's orbit without slowing, their trajectory unmistakably aimed toward Earth. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this possibility, establishing a unified defense force after the climate wars had nearly torn civilization apart. The Terran Alliance, formed from the ashes of nations, had built a modest fleet of interplanetary vessels and defensive platforms. Still, Reed knew it wouldn't be enough against this level of technology. Then, without warning, every communication device on Earth received the same message. It bypassed all security protocols, translating itself into all major languages simultaneously. "People of Earth," the message began, the voice unnaturally deep and layered with harmonics that made the hair on Reed's neck stand on end. "We are the Vraxian Empire. For centuries, we have observed your species. Your potential for violence and rapid technological advancement makes you a threat to galactic stability. Surrender your planet and submit to relocation or face immediate eradication. You have 24 Earth hours to comply." The message ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a stunned silence across every command center on the planet. "They can't be serious," Ortiz whispered. "Relocate 8 billion people." Reed's jaw tightened. "They don't intend to relocate anyone, Lieutenant. This is an extinction order dressed up as a choice." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The Terran Security Council convened an emergency session, military assets were deployed, and civilians around the world watched the skis with mounting dread. Admiral Yamamoto's face was grim when he addressed the captains of Earth's fleet. "The Security Council has voted unanimously. Earth will not surrender, we fight." A collective breath seemed to pass through the command deck of the Vigilant. They had all known this would be the response, but hearing it spoken aloud made it real. "And our strategy, sir?" Reed asked. "Project Phoenix has been authorized." Reed blinked in surprise. Project Phoenix was a theoretical last-resort weapon, never tested at full capacity. The brainchild of Dr. Hiroki Tanaka, it utilized quantum entanglement principles to create a disruption field that could, in theory, disable advanced technology. But the energy requirements were enormous and the effects unpredictable. "Admiral, with all due respect, Phoenix is untested. We don't know if." "We don't have a choice, Commander. Conventional weapons will be useless against their technology. Phoenix is our only hope." Reed nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Where will we deploy?" "Mars orbital zone. We'll make our stand there, keep the fight away from Earth as long as possible. Your ship will carry the Phoenix device. Dr. Tanaka is already en route to the Vigilant with the prototype." 3 hours later, Dr. Naomi Tanaka strode onto the bridge of the Vigilant. A compact woman with silver-streaked black hair and eyes that reflected the weight of humanity's fate. "Commander Reed," she said with a curt nod. My team is installing Phoenix in your weapons bay. It should be operational within 2 hours. And will it work, Doctor? Reed asked bluntly. Tanaka's expression didn't change. Theoretically, yes. The quantum disruption should cascade through their systems, temporarily disabling their technology, but the effective range is limited and we've never tested it against alien tech. It's the best we've got, Reed acknowledged. We'll make it work. As Earth's modest fleet of 37 combat vessels assembled in Mars orbit, the Vraxian armada continued its inexorable approach. The Vigilant took position at the center of the formation, the Phoenix device humming with potential energy in its modified weapons bay. Reed addressed his crew one final time before battle. I won't lie to you, we're outmatched. But throughout history, humanity has faced overwhelming odds and survived. We don't fight just for ourselves, but for every generation that might come after us, for the very idea that humanity has a right to exist among the stars. Today, we show these Vraxians what humans are made of. The first of the alien vessels appeared at the edge of sensor range, their obsidian hulls drinking in the distant sunlight. Reed straightened his uniform and gave the order. All ships battle formation Delta. Hold position until the enemy fleet is within Phoenix range. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the alien ships drew closer. They moved with unnatural precision, their formation shifting like a single organism rather than individual vessels. They're launching fighters, Ortiz reported, his voice tight. Hundreds of smaller craft poured from the larger ships, streaking toward Earth's defensive line. Hold position, Reed commanded. Wait for them to commit. The first wave of Vraxian fighters opened fire, streams of energy lashing out across space. Two of Earth's smaller vessels erupted into flames, their hulls breached instantly. Sir, they're tearing through our outer line, Ortiz shouted. Reed watched the tactical display, waiting for the moment when the majority of the Vraxian fleet would be within Phoenix's effective range. It was a gamble, sacrificing their outer defenses to draw in the enemy. Phoenix status, Reed demanded. Dr. Tanaka's voice came over the comm. Power at 98%, ready on your command. The Vraxian flagship, a behemoth that eclipsed all others, moved into position, its weapons charging for what would surely be a devastating barrage. Now, doctors, Reed ordered. Deep within the Vigilant, the Phoenix device activated. There was no visible beam, no dramatic explosion. Instead, a wave of quantum distortion rippled outward, invisible to the naked eye but fundamental at the subatomic level. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the Vraxian ships began to falter. Their lights flickered, their weapons powered down, and their precision movements devolved into drift. It's working, Ortiz exclaimed. Reed allowed himself a tight smile. All ships commence attack pattern Omega, target their propulsion and weapons systems. We won't get a second chance at this. Earth's fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. The disabled Vraxian vessels, momentarily vulnerable, took heavy damage, but Reed knew the effect wouldn't last long. Sir, energy readings from the Vraxian flagship, Ortiz warned. They're adapting. The massive alien vessel's lights pulsed, then stabilized. Its weapons systems reactivated faster than they had anticipated. Evasive maneuvers, Reed shouted, but it was too late. The Vraxian flagship fired, a beam of concentrated energy that sliced through space. It struck the Vigilant on its port side, sending the ship into a violent spin. Warning klaxons blared as systems failed across the vessel. Damage report, Reed called out, pulling himself back to his station. Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Phoenix chamber is hit. Dr. Tanaka's voice crackled through the damaged comms. Commander, Phoenix is overloading. The containment field is failing if it goes critical. The ship shuddered again as another blast struck them. Reed made a split-second decision. Set course for the Vraxian flagship, full speed. Sir, Ortiz questioned, eyes wide. You heard me, Lieutenant. If Phoenix is going to overload, let's make sure it takes them with us. Transmit our telemetry to the fleet. Tell them to fall back to secondary positions. As the damaged Vigilant accelerated toward the heart of the Vraxian fleet, Reed opened a channel to all Earth vessels. This is Commander Reed. The Vigilant is compromised, but we're not done fighting. Remember this day not as Earth's last stand, but as humanity's first warning to the galaxy. We will not go quietly. The Vigilant, trailing debris and venting atmosphere, hurtled toward the Vraxian flagship. The alien vessel attempted to evade, but the Phoenix device's quantum field had disrupted enough of their systems to slow their response time. In his final moments, as the distance closed between the ships, Reed felt an odd sense of peace. The Vigilant might be lost, but humanity would survive. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other civilizations would hear of how Earth had bloodied the nose of the mighty Vraxian Empire on their first encounter. The Vigilant struck the Vraxian flagship just as the Phoenix device went critical. The quantum detonation that followed was unlike anything humans had ever witnessed, a sphere of distorted spacetime that engulfed both vessels completely. And across the solar system, humanity watched in awe and terror as the battle for their existence had just begun, defiance rising. The quantum detonation that consumed the Vigilant and the Vraxian flagship sent shockwaves across the solar system. Not just physical tremors that rippled through space, but waves of realization that humanity had drawn its line in the cosmos. The battle was far from over, but something had fundamentally changed in that explosive moment. Earth had proven it would not surrender without a fight. On the bridge of the TDF Intrepid, Captain Morgan Way watched the tactical display with narrowed eyes. As Reed's second-in-command in the fleet, command had fallen to her after the Vigilant's sacrifice. The quantum detonation had disabled nearly a third of the Vraxian fleet, but the remaining vessels were regrouping with alarming speed. "Status report," Way demanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. Lieutenant Darius Ockafer, the Intrepid's tactical officer, responded without taking his eyes off his console. "The enemy fleet is regrouping, Captain. We've lost 11 ships with 7 more heavily damaged. The good news is the Phoenix device worked better than expected, their flagship is gone, and their command structure appears to be in disarray." Way nodded, her mind racing through possibilities. Reed's sacrifice had bought them time, but not victory. The remaining Vraxian ships still outnumbered Earth's fleet 3-1, and their technological superiority was undeniable. "Open a channel to all remaining TDF vessels," she ordered. When the connection was established, Way spoke with the calm authority that had earned her respect throughout the fleet. "This is Captain Way. Commander Reed and the Vigilant have shown us what human courage can accomplish. But this fight is just beginning. All damaged vessels withdraw to Earth's orbital defense grid. All combat-capable ships form up on the Intrepid. We're going to hit them while they're still reeling." As the Earth fleet reorganized, the Vraxian armada struggled to establish a new command hierarchy. Their rigid hierarchical structure had never anticipated losing their flagship so early in what should have been a simple conquest. The Intrepid led a daring counterattack, striking at the disorganized alien vessels with everything in Earth's arsenal. Railgun batteries unleashed hypervelocity projectiles that punched through alien hull plating. Nuclear-tipped missiles detonated in precisely calculated patterns, creating shockwaves that damaged multiple enemy ships simultaneously. Every captain in Earth's fleet fought with the desperate knowledge that there would be no retreat, no surrender. This was humanity's only chance. Back on Earth, in the underground command bunker beneath what had once been Geneva, the Terran Security Council watched the battle unfold with grim determination. Field Marshal Helena Davalos, the highest-ranking military officer on the planet, addressed the assembled leaders. "The Vigilant sacrifice has given us an opportunity, but it won't be enough. We need a new strategy, and quickly." Dr. Ryota Tanaka, brother of Naomi Tanaka and the other lead scientist behind Project Phoenix, stepped forward. His eyes were red-rimmed from grief, but his voice remained steady. "The Phoenix device worked by disrupting the Vraxians' quantum-based technology. From the data we've gathered, their ships rely on a form of quantum entanglement for both communication and power distribution. If we could deploy multiple Phoenix devices simultaneously—" "We don't have any more devices," Marshal Davalos interrupted. "Your sister took the only prototype." Dr. Tanaka's expression hardened. "We don't have completed devices, but we have the schematics and essential components. I believe we can construct simplified versions, not as powerful, but enough to create disruption fields. If we could place them on fast, maneuverable ships and target their supply vessels." Marshal Davalos considered this for a moment. How quickly could these devices be assembled? With all of Earth's manufacturing capabilities redirected, 12 hours. Davalos nodded decisively. "Make it happen, and get me a line to Captain Way." In the orbit of Mars, the battle continued to rage. The Intrepid took a direct hit to its starboard weapons array, the explosion sending tremors throughout the ship. Captain Wei gripped her command chair as the lights flickered. "Reroute power to forward shields," she ordered. "Keep us between the Vraxians and Earth." Lieutenant Kira Nakamura, the Intrepid's young navigation officer, spoke up unexpectedly. "Captain, I've been analyzing the enemy's movement patterns. They're not fighting like we expected." Wei turned to her, explained Lieutenant. Nakamura's fingers danced across her console, highlighting patterns in the enemy formation. "They're prioritizing protecting their supply ships over pressing their advantage. It's as if they're more concerned with maintaining their logistics chain than achieving a quick victory." Wei's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "They came prepared for a swift conquest, not a prolonged engagement. They need those supply ships." Her thoughts were interrupted by an incoming transmission from Earth. Marshal Davalos's face appeared on screen, her expression taut with urgency. "Captain Wei, we're preparing a counterstrike. Dr. Tanaka is constructing simplified Phoenix devices to target the Vraxian supply ships. We need you to hold the line for 12 more hours." Wei glanced at the tactical display. 12 hours seemed like an eternity in the midst of battle. "Understood, Marshal. We'll give you the time you need." As the transmission ended, Wei turned to Nakamura. "Lieutenant, your observation may have just given us our strategy. If they're prioritizing their supply vessels, we'll make them pay for it. Direct all remaining ships to focus fire on any enemy vessel trying to protect their supply line." For the next 11 hours, the remnants of Earth's fleet fought with desperate ingenuity. Captains executed maneuvers that pushed their ships beyond design tolerances. Engineers bypassed safety protocols to squeeze extra power from straining reactors. Every member of every crew knew they were fighting not just for their own lives, but for the very existence of humanity. The cost was steep. By the time Dr. Tanaka reported the completion of the improvised Phoenix devices, Earth's fleet had been reduced to 14 combat-capable vessels. But they had succeeded in their mission. The Vraxian advance had been slowed and their supply line exposed. Lieutenant Nakamura volunteered to lead the strike team. As the most skilled pilot on the Intrepid, she would command a squadron of 6 small, fast-attack craft, each carrying one of the improvised Phoenix devices. "The devices have a much smaller range than the original," Dr. Tanaka explained during the mission briefing. "You'll need to get within 1 kilometer of each target for maximum effect." Nakamura nodded, her expression resolute. "We'll get the job done, Doctor." Captain Wei addressed the strike team before they departed. "What you're attempting may well determine the fate of our species. Your mission is to disable as many of their supply ships as possible. Without those resources, their fleet will be stranded in our solar system, vulnerable to counterattack." Nakamura's team launched from the Intrepid's bay, their small craft accelerating rapidly toward the Vraxian supply line. The main Earth fleet provided covering fire, drawing the attention of the Vraxian combat vessels, while the strike team approached from a vector the aliens had left relatively undefended. "Strike leader to team," Nakamura's voice was calm over the comm. "Remember your training. These craft are small enough to evade their targeting systems if we maintain erratic flight patterns. Don't fly straight for more than 3 seconds at a time." The attack ships weaved through space like minnows darting between predators. 2 were lost to Vraxian defensive fire, their pilots sacrificing themselves to draw attention away from their comrades. The remaining 4 ships closed on their targets. Nakamura's craft reached the first supply vessel, a massive container ship bristling with defensive turrets. She activated her Phoenix device as she swooped past the alien ship's hull, close enough to see the strange geometric patterns etched into its surface. The effect was immediate. The supply ship systems failed in cascading sequence, its lights flickering out as it drifted helplessly in space. One by one, the other members of the strike team reported similar successes. 4 of the Vraxian supply vessels, nearly half their logistics fleet, had been neutralized. As Nakamura turned her ship for the return journey, she witnessed something unprecedented. The remaining Vraxian vessels were breaking formation, abandoning the combat area with surprising haste. "Strike leader to Intrepid," she reported, disbelief coloring her voice. "Captain, I think they're retreating." On the Intrepid's bridge, Captain Wei watched the tactical display with cautious optimism as the Vraxian ships accelerated away from Mars' orbit, back toward the outer solar system. "They're not retreating permanently," Wei said, her tactical mind analyzing the situation. They're regrouping, reassessing. Without their flagship and with their supply line compromised, they can't sustain the assault, but they'll be back. Marshal Davalos's face appeared on the command screen. Captain Wei, your fleet has accomplished the impossible. You've given humanity something precious time. The Security Council has authorized full military mobilization. Every resource we have will be directed toward defense and the production of more Phoenix devices. Wei nodded grimly. We'll need every advantage we can get, Marshal. The Vraxians underestimated us this time. They won't make that mistake again. In the days that followed, Earth transformed. Old national rivalries were set aside completely as humanity united against the existential threat. Factories that had once produced luxury goods now manufactured components for defensive systems. Civilian ships were retrofitted for combat roles. Scientists worldwide collaborated on improving the Phoenix technology and developing new weapons based on what they had learned from the Vraxian encounter. 2 weeks after the initial battle, long-range sensors detected the Vraxian fleet returning. But this time, they did not approach with the same overwhelming confidence. Their formation was more cautious, their advance more measured. And this time, Earth was ready. In orbit around the planet, a new fleet waited, nearly 100 vessels, each equipped with Phoenix technology. Orbital defense platforms bristled with weapons designed specifically to target Vraxian vulnerabilities. On the surface, cities had been hardened against attack, populations moved to underground shelters. On the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship TDF Vigilant II, Captain Wei stood with Lieutenant Nakamura, now promoted to commander for her actions in the previous battle. They're still coming, Nakamura observed, watching the approaching Vraxian fleet on the tactical display. Even after everything we did to them. Wei's expression was resolute. Of course they are. We've wounded their pride as much as their fleet. The Vraxians have likely conquered dozens of worlds without significant resistance. We're the first to bloody their nose, and they can't allow that challenge to stand. What do you think will happen? Nakamura asked. Wei considered the question carefully. Best case scenario, we defeat them decisively enough that they decide Earth isn't worth the cost. Worst case, this becomes a war of attrition, potentially lasting for years. The Vigilant II's communications officer interrupted. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Vraxian fleet. It's on all frequencies just like before. Put it through, Wei ordered. The same deep, layered voice that had delivered the ultimatum now spoke again, but the tone had subtly changed. People of Earth, your resistance has been noted. The Vraxian Empire acknowledges your martial capability. We offer terms, recognition of Vraxian sovereignty and tribute payment in exchange for your continued autonomy. Refusal will result in sustained conflict. Wei exchanged glances with Nakamura. This was unexpected. The Vraxians were negotiating rather than demanding unconditional surrender. Marshal Davalos's response from Earth was immediate and unequivocal. The people of Earth recognize no sovereignty but their own. We will not pay tribute, but we are willing to discuss peaceful coexistence as equals. Should you choose conflict instead, know that humanity will defend itself with every resource at its disposal for as long as necessary. There was a long pause before the Vraxian response came. Your proposal is unprecedented. The Vraxian Empire has never recognized a developing species as an equal. First time for everything, Wei muttered under her breath. After another pause, the Vraxian voice continued. We will withdraw to the edge of your solar system to consider this matter. Further communication will follow. True to their word, the Vraxian fleet altered course, moving away from Earth and taking up position beyond Neptune's orbit. They did not leave entirely, but neither did they resume hostilities. In the months that followed, a cautious dialogue was established. The Vraxians, it emerged, had dominated their sector of the galaxy for millennia, subjugating dozens of less advanced species. Never before had they encountered a primitive world that could inflict meaningful losses on their fleet. Earth had done the impossible, earned the respect of a galactic empire through sheer determination and ingenuity. The quantum detonation that had destroyed the Vraxian flagship had sent ripples not just through space-time, but through the political landscape of the galaxy itself. Word spread among other species, whispers of the small blue planet whose inhabitants had bloodied the nose of the mighty Vraxian Empire. Earth became a symbol of resistance, of defiance against overwhelming odds. And in the stars beyond, Other civilizations watched with newfound interest as humanity took its first true steps onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals who had earned their place through fire and sacrifice. The universe had indeed watched in shock as Earth laughed at its enemies, and the galaxy would never be the same again.